Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and I'm back today with Flex Shane of the Flex Network. All of his links are down below in the description. We already made a video talking about Jonathan Taylor, so you can actually check that out on my channel. It'll also be linked down below in the description with all of Shane's stuff. So thank you, Shane, for coming on again. It really does mean a lot for you to come and help me because when it comes to this, I'm not as rookie savvy as most people are. I don't really pay too much attention to this, but he's a huge help, and he was in the last video, so thank you for coming on again.
Love it. Thanks for having me again.
Yep, no problem. So this is the second guy, but the guy we're going to be talking about in this video is DeAndre Swift out of the Georgia Bulldogs. So with him, he played 13 games in his junior season. He had 219 total touches, 195 rushes, over 1,200 rushing yards, 7 total rushing touchdowns, which is the lowest on this list of guys we are going to be talking about, 30 targets, 24 catches, 216 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. He had an 80% catch rate, and I think that's about all we had to talk about here, and he has 3 total fumbles. And he had 1,400 total yards. What are you thinking about DeAndre Swift? The first thing I want to talk here about is we talked about this pre-show, but I want to talk about how Georgia's line just impacts them because they breed these running backs in the NFL. If you're looking at some of these running backs, guys like Sony Michel, I know obviously, most people still don't like him anymore because his knee is all messed up. And so is Todd Gurley's. They breed knee injuries there, I guess. But those are 2 very talented NFL backs that have shown – Todd Gurley especially. That guy had like 3 years of dominance in the NFL. Now he gets shipped off to Atlanta. But what are you thinking about this offensive line in Georgia and why they really just breed these running backs?
Well, Georgia's an interesting spot because, to your point, they do breed running backs. And, one of the things you mentioned is that he wasn't, from a pure accounting perspective, he wasn't as productive as guys like Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins. But one of the actual selling points when they're trying to recruit these guys out of high school as to why you should come to my college is Georgia says, listen, we are a running back, let's just call it a running back factory, which means one of the pluses, one of the reasons you should come to our program is because we are not going to work to tread off your tires so that there's a conversation with like a Jonathan Taylor where, well, maybe this guy touched the ball too many times. Maybe he had too many carries. Is he going to be durable enough? Should I be spending an early round pick on this guy? Whereas they'll come and say, hey, DeAndre, come to our school because we're not going to work you ragged. We understand you've got a career after football after college in the NFL. Yeah. And that is one of the reasons you should come to our program. So that's actually one of their selling features, if you believe it or not.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because when you don't have a lot of this use early in college, that means that they can go for longer in the NFL. So another thing I want to talk about here is his height. Now, he's the shortest guy out of any of these guys. He is 5'8". And is that a bit of a worry for you, the fact that he's short now?
Sometimes it is, but the thing is, if you watch any of his game tape, he doesn't really play small. Mm-hmm. So, and then you could also argue, well, maybe there's just a little bit less for defenders to grab onto when they're trying to tackle him. And like if you've got a big old offensive line pushing that defensive line for you, it's sometimes hard to spot these little guys. So no, I don't really see it as a total negative for him, but there could be some question of, okay, is DeAndre Swift going to be a 3-down back in the NFL? Or is he only going to be playing on maybe second and third downs situations?
Okay, that makes sense. Now, obviously, right here, I have your list of the guy that you compare him to. So his best comparable player as of this list is Myles Sanders. Why do you see that as the comparison?
Well, I think it's just really a matter of the style of play. Same thing. Like Myles Sanders, I feel like he was kind of underrated coming out. He ended up being – there was a big debate last year between him and Josh Jacobs. And from a pure talent standpoint, I would have probably gone with Myles Sanders. I didn't like him going to Philly because I feel like Philly never really wants to have a workhorse back. So that's kind of a risk. But, a guy like DeAndre Swift, you wonder if a team like a Philly is going to draft Swift thinking that, okay, he's not going to be my every down back. And that does give you a little bit of pause. And then when you just look at the pure measurables, in terms of his just overall being at the combine, I should say, a lot of his metrics weren't really off the page, but they were, I would say, acceptable. But a guy like DeAndre Swift, what it comes down to is when you watch his tape, and I like to see there's people that are like the film grinders, and there's people that are just the data analysis people. I feel like you kind of have to be a balance of both. And when you watch Swift on the field, like he looks special when the ball's in his hand. Like he looks electric, and he's a fun guy to watch. And to me, it does remind me a lot of Miles Sanders in that perspective.
Okay, so you were talking about his combine. He had a 4.48 40-yard dash. Now, obviously, that's not as amazing as Jonathan Taylor's, but that's still very good. I mean, just because some guy runs a whole
Mhm.
millisecond or whatever that measure, I'm so bad at math and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
1.1 faster is not, or worse, is really
sure.
not that bad. That's still very fast. A guy like Moss absolutely failed there, but I think that his
Sure.
speed score is 105. His burst score is 120. So those are both very good measurables for a running back. Now, most
Yeah.
leagues are PPR, half PPR. We talked about this. Do you think that
Yeah.
Swift is going to be a guy in the league who's catching the ball? Is he going to be a guy who's more of just like a first or second round or second down back?
Well, I think that he can absolutely catch the ball. That was one of the advantages and just one of the pluses. And what you find is that they would actually line him up outside as a receiver
Hmm.
in a lot of different cases. Now, he didn't catch a ton of balls. Let's see here. He only caught 24 balls
Yeah,
last year, but he still had an 80% catch rate. So
yeah.
he's very efficient when they actually do use him. And the fact that they can line him out and that he is a threat, he's not just somebody that can be ignored, is obviously an asset to a team.
Yeah, now a stat I actually want to talk about is how much do you look into this type of a number where the stat is like team total, like his percentage of the team total yards. He has
Mhm.
24.8. Does that mean a lot to you? Does that really mean anything? Because to me, that actually does mean a lot. It means that they believe in him if they're going to give him the ball pretty much 25% of the time.
Yeah, no, I would say that it's obviously relevant, right? I mean, if you've got these hyper efficient stats, but you only touch the ball 3 times a game,
Yeah.
then those stats might be inflated, right? You're more of a gadget type player.
Hmm.
Whereas when you're the starting running back, and we talked about it before, DeAndre Swift wasn't the every down back, not
Hmm.
because he wasn't capable, but because that's just how Georgia manages their football team, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that he was still able to get 1,400 yards total yards on only 25% of the team touches, I mean, I think that's still it's relevant. I mean, you compare that to a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who had 34% of his team's
Yeah.
plays. Like they're literally giving him the ball 1/3 of the time. Every third play, he's touching the ball. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, you can never just keep that production going into the NFL. That'd be crazy if you saw a guy getting the ball like 30% of
Yep.
the time. I don't think you really ever see that, to be honest with you. But another thing
You don't know.
I want to
Unless
talk
it's
about.
Derrick Henry, which
Oh yeah,
he's like the anomaly though.
yeah. I mean, Derrick Henry even threw a touchdown against Baltimore. That's how much he's touching the
Yeah,
ball.
exactly.
I think the Derrick Henry. We don't have to talk about him here,
No.
obviously, but that guy is just amazing. And I will never draft him in fantasy, but he's amazing. I hate him though.
Yeah, well, he's going too early. I think people uh, conversation for another day. I think he's being overdrafted. Let's put it that way.
Okay. That's definitely makes sense. But
Yeah.
where are you looking to draft a guy like DeAndre Swift in? We'll do both dynasty and redraft. So obviously this is all team dependent. If he ends up
Yep.
going somewhere where he's not going to get the ball, then throw it out the fucking window. But right now, say he lands on a good spot. Where do you
Yeah.
think he goes in both dynasty and redraft?
So you're talking about like a dynasty startup?
Yeah, dynasty startup. Where do you think he goes?
I would probably think that he's going to be going around the late second, early third round in these
Okay.
dynasty startups. Um, People tend to, I don't want to say overdraft these types of players, but like a guy like DeAndre Swift, like he can have immediate impact to your team, but he's the kind of player that is going to be very landing spot dependent
Uh-huh.
because where he goes, we're gonna have a better understanding of, okay, is he going to be a 3 down back? Is he going to be, say, the 1A in a committee, or maybe the 1B
Hmm.
in a committee? So there's a little bit of risk there.
Yeah.
In terms of rookie drafts, he's my 102. I would take him just right after Jonathan Taylor. Um, Going back to the fact that, again, when he touches a ball, like he just looks special. And I know that's
Yeah.
totally like it's intangible. It's hard to quantify, but he looks special when he plays. And
Yeah.
there's something to be said about a player like that.
Hmm.
And then I think right now in best ball leagues, so just in your regular redraft leagues, he's going as the second rookie running back off the board in the pretty much you can say you watch the mid to late third round right now.
Okay. What I noticed is in the dynasty mocks I've done, like the super flex ones, literally the
Mhm.
second someone takes Jonathan Taylor, within 3 picks, someone picks DeAndre Swift because they don't want to
That
miss
makes
out on
sense.
him because if you can't really wait on him. Those two guys are going to go like back to back unless something miraculously changes and a
Yeah.
guy like Dobbins goes to like a far better situation. I don't think that they're going
Yeah.
to move at all. They'll probably be 1 and 2. So, do you have any closing statements here about Mr. DeAndre Swift? Anything that you feel like we should bring up here?
I would say that again, DeAndre Swift, he's a fun player. Again, he's my number 2 in Dynasty rookie drafts.
Mm-hmm.
So the overall value that I think that he's going to bring to a team, it could be similar to a guy like Myles Sanders, where early on in the first season, his usage might not be as much as a guy like a Jonathan Taylor, or frankly, even like a J.K. Dobbins, right? Who's shown that he can be a workhorse. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that really does give me pause. So just make sure you're comfortable with the team that he's going to if you're going to invest that sort of pick. But at the same time, when you're drafting a running back, these guys typically maintain their value. I mean, you look at a guy like Darrell Henderson, who was going in the late first round last year. He did absolutely squat last year for the Rams, but yet he's still valued at a late first round pick. So you're not going to lose value by drafting these guys early. And I mean, I don't think you're going to be disappointed by him. I think DeAndre Swift's going to have a fantastic career.
Yeah, as do I. I like DeAndre Swift from the tape that I've watched. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, Jake Fromm is not that good of a quarterback in my opinion, but they were still doing pretty good this season. But one actual last question here is obviously we're going to be talking about Dynasty here. So what would you trade for a guy like DeAndre Swift? If you had to trade for the 102, because likely at the 101, if you're talking non-super flex, that's going to be Jonathan Taylor. What kind of capital would you have to move to get DeAndre Swift that you would feel comfortable for, or would you rather just have some of those other big name kind of guys that you may have to ship off to get a guy like DeAndre Swift? So obviously you're not going to trade Mixon for Swift, in my opinion. I love Mixon. I think Mixon is one of the most talented backs in the league, and will probably have probably the next 4 years he'll be completely dominant as long as they don't fuck up and do not draft Joe Burrow. I mean, the Bengals are stupid, so they could entirely throw the pick to the Dolphins, and we have him. But hopefully, maybe that could happen. But what would you move to get a guy like DeAndre Swift?
Man, people covet their early round dynasty picks. So you're probably going to have to trade him. Likely a young breakout wide receiver, a guy like a Deebo Samuel or like a Terry McLaurin, or somebody in that range. You're probably going to have to trade whatever. So say you've got a mid to late first round pick, you're probably going to have to include that. And you might have to include probably your second round pick as well, and potentially even a running back. So you're going to have to give quite the haul in order to get this sort of pick. Honestly, when it comes to trading up, if you're trying to get one of these top 4 running backs, I'm just going to say there's this top 4, I would probably go and see what I can get for the 1.4, or even during the middle of the draft, wait and see. Let your competitors mess up and take a CeeDee Lamb at 102 or 103. And then if you know you have to give an absolute haul to get one of these picks, wait until the draft and let somebody else screw up. And then if they're not screwing up, they're doing what they're supposed to do and they're drafting these running backs first, then you can make that decision if you really want one of these players and make the investment.
One of these tips that a lot of people talk about for Dynasty is that those picks, like you said, they have their most value the second the pick is on the clock. Like the second it hits that it's the 103, you're like, holy shit, I need to get this. Then you just oversend for the pick. Right now, trying to get it might be far cheaper, but even now, people love these guys, like a guy like Swift that they're sold on, because when you're sitting there, you know who you're going to draft at the 102. It could be like it's probably locked in for months. They probably know they want Swift. So anything else on him, or are we good here?
No, DeAndre Swift, he's good. He's your 102, folks.
Yeah, he is very good. You can just watch the tape, type on YouTube, DeAndre Swift versus, watch one of the games, and then you'll need a new pair of pants after you watch it. He's just that good. So
exactly.
Thank you guys for watching. Check out Shane. Links down below in the description. His podcast is amazing. Like I said, you can find it pretty much everywhere. It's on YouTube. It's on all the places you can watch podcasts. So thank you all for watching. I love you all. Make sure to click that subscribe button. Check out Shane. Have a great rest of your day.